All right, let's dive into a fascinating economic puzzle. Sometimes what looks like amazing news on the surface is actually a huge red flag. Today, we're digging into India's recent inflation numbers to uncover a paradox that has economists seriously worried.
Check out this number, 1.54%. That was India's retail inflation back in September, the lowest it's been in 99 months. We're talking over 8 years. Now, at first glance, that seems fantastic, right? It means prices for stuff you buy every day are barely going up. Your money should be going way further. So, is it time to pop the champagne? Well, hold on a second. That incredibly low number, it's actually a massive warning light flashing for the Indian economy. So the real question we need to ask is, why is this seemingly great news actually such a big problem? And that brings us to our first big point, when good news is really bad news. Let's break down exactly why this rock-bottom inflation number is causing so much concern.
You see, the core issue here is what this number is really telling us. We all get why high inflation is bad. It just eats away at your savings, your money buys less. But severely low inflation, like what we're seeing now, it points to a totally different and you could argue a much more dangerous problem. It's a sign that supply is way, way bigger than demand. Put simply, there's a ton of stuff on the shelves, but not enough people willing or able to buy it.
This slide just lays it out perfectly. It's like two sides of the same coin. We usually worry about the problem on the left, right? High inflation. But India's current headache is all on the right. The issue isn't that prices are skyrocketing, it's that people just aren't spending. And that signals weak economic demand, which is the absolute lifeblood of any healthy economy.
And listen, this isn't just a one-month fluke. The data shows this has been going on for a while. The average inflation for the entire first half of the fiscal year was just 2.2%. And if you dig into specific things like clothes and shoes, it's a tiny 2.3%. But here's the real kicker. Even after the government cut taxes to try and get people to spend more, households are just saving the money instead. People are holding back, and that is a really worrying sign.
So what are the real dangers here? I mean, what actually happens if this trend keeps going? Let's talk about the risks of stagnation. What happens when an economy gets way too cool? This shows you the dangerous downward spiral we're talking about. It all starts with weak demand. Since people aren't buying, companies have to start slashing prices just to move their products. That's deflationary pressure. But then the revenues drop, which leads to wage cuts or even layoffs. That, of course, means people have even less money to spend, and the whole vicious cycle just repeats itself. This is how you get economic stagnation. It's a trap that's incredibly hard to escape from.
So here's the bottom line. India needs its own people to be the engine of its growth. You can't just rely on selling things to other countries. And this quote really drives the point home. If you look at China's model, making way too much stuff and then depending on exports, you see how dangerous that can be. And for India, it's even tougher to copy that strategy because its exports aren't as strong and you've got all these trade tensions around the world. The solution has to come from inside. Okay, so this brings us to the main character in this whole drama, this central bank. We're talking about the huge challenge now facing the Reserve Bank of India, or the RBI. You see, the RBI has an official target for inflation, and that magic number is 4%. Think of it as the Goldilocks zone. Not too hot, not too cold, but just right. It's that sweet spot for a healthy, growing economy, where prices are stable, but there's still enough incentive for people to spend and invest. But here's where things get really tricky for the RBI. Their own predictions have been way, way off. Back in April, they were forecasting that inflation would be right around that 4% target. The actual average for the first half of the year, just 2.2%. That's not just a small miss, that is a massive gap between what they thought would happen and what actually happened. And look, this isn't just some academic mistake on a spreadsheet. This kind of volatility really, really matters. It hurts the central bank's credibility. I mean, if your models are that far off, how can businesses and investors possibly trust your guidance? It makes the already incredibly tough job of steering a multi-trillion-dollar economy even harder. Okay, so the situation is definitely tricky. We've got weak demand, a real risk of stagnation, and a central bank that's struggling to get its forecasts right. So what's the path forward? What can actually be done to fix this? Well, experts have laid out a pretty clear 3-step playbook. First, and this one's urgent, cut interest rates. make it cheaper for people and businesses to borrow money, which should get them spending and investing again. Second, you've got to actively boost private investment to create jobs and, this is key, get real wages growing. And third, the RBI needs a serious upgrade to its forecasting models to get a much better, real-time read on the economy.
At the end of the day, this isn't about a quick fix or a temporary Band-Aid. The real goal here is to reignite sustainable, homegrown demand. It's all about getting the internal engine of the Indian economy. People having good jobs, earning more money, and feeling confident enough to spend, firing on all cylinders again.
And that brings us right to the final critical question. The clock is ticking, the warning signs are all there. So, can the Reserve Bank of India make the right moves and restart the country's engine of demand before the economy grinds to a halt? That is the question that's going to define India's economic story for months and even years to come. Thanks for digging into this with us.